All right, it is time because it is not just a game when she joins us on the show. It's the one and only Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. You can hear her everywhere. I woke up this morning, turned on the radio when you were on. I'm like, I know that voice. There you were, Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. How are things? How was your weekend?
Hi, Jay. It was good. It was good. I was glad the sun came out finally. Not used to that. Not used to it being so gloomy and 38 all the time.
It's
So,
so crazy. Like we have this like thing with Tampa, the weather here in St. Pete, where they moonlight as like a winter state for like a week, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, we're just kidding. We're gonna go back to what the normal weather is. Where are you? You look like you're in a distinguished location.
I am at the mothership. I'm at
Oh,
the Pointer
nice.
Institute, which, Pointer owns the Tampa
Hmm.
Bay Times. So, I'm here. I'm actually in the auditorium because that was the only room available. So,
Do you ever run
that's where
into?
I'm
Do
at
you ever run into Tom Jones there, former Tampa Bay Times?
all the time.
Well, make sure you tell Jonesy I said hello. He was definitely instrumental in my career. The first show I ever interned on was the show with Rick Stroud and Tom Jones back on WDAE.
Oh,
So
wow.
I attribute a lot of my success and learning the ropes from Rick Stroud and Tom Jones. So make sure
I
you tell
will.
tell both those guys I said hello. So yeah, it's not every day you get to talk to a owner of a professional sports franchise, but you got a chance to hear from Stu Sternberg. And Colleen, this is such a crazy thing. And I'm so, again, thank you so much for joining us because you make our show so much better and you inform us with such great information. We've talked multiple times in the short life of the Jay Recher podcast. What's the latest? When you hear these words from Stu, I mean, what do you glean from the conversation that you have from a guy knowing that a lot of eyeballs are on him and the decision making process of what is going to happen with baseball here in the Tampa Bay area?
Sure. I mean, it's really hard to glean anything without being speculative. And I tried not to be speculative. I tried to just report facts and whatnot. But all I can really say is, first of all, I wasn't expecting to see Stu there. This event is kind of an annual event. It brings the mayors of Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Clearwater together. So I've covered it. I don't even know how many times.
Mhm.
4 times at this point. I don't recall seeing Stu there last time or like last year. I remember seeing other Rays representatives, but Stu was there this year, which you can take that as a sign of like being seen in public for the first time. I don't know, maybe that's good. But yeah, he wasn't really giving me a whole ton. Basically just saying it seems like it could come down to the wire. It won't be whatever decision is made about the new stadium deal. Stu was saying that it won't go until March 31st. That is their deadline before the team is basically in default of these agreements that were celebrated last summer. Um, so it could happen maybe like I tried to get him like so next month in February. Could
Yeah.
it be like early March? Something will happen. It's not clear what. It's not clear if it's still a money issue, as St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch kind of hinted at. Not clear what's going on. Did not really get a strong sense either way if this is happening or it's not happening or some other third option. I don't know what that looks like. But take it for what it's worth. He showed up in public at a very political event. So
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about this whole process, and it's kind of funny how now Chris Latvala is a guy that's so hyper focused, and he's front and center throughout this entire thing. And I remember when I had him on originally, and people were like, "I can't believe you had that guy on." Well, now it's like he's going back and forth. I don't know if you see it, but he's going back and forth with people on social
oh,
media.
I see it.
Oh yeah, you're with me. You got the popcorn, right? It's just like it's kind of wild. This is in a weird way. It's almost like watching your parents like going through marriage counseling in front of everybody. And it's just so like I don't know if it's I appreciate the transparency and I appreciate like being in the loop and knowing certain aspects of this, but there's also a part of me that looks at this and I don't know if I'm wrong or I'm right, Colleen, where it's just like I don't want to see this. I just put all your stuff to the side and let's figure this out, whether it's yes or no. It's just such a weird back and forth. Do you get that same kind of inkling?
Yeah, and it's even difficult to even characterize how things are at this point. I mean, we do know that the city is meeting with Stu. In fact, Mayor Ken Welch is meeting with Stu today. It's actually like I think it happened like at 11 a.m.
Mm.
And they also met last week. So they are talking uh, about kind of like what's needed to kind of get past this, right? To kind of like come back to the table and get
Mhm.
together and kind of kiss and make up and kind of be like how they were last summer, right? When things were kind of like kumbaya and hunky dory. Um, but the mayor was saying yesterday, and he said this publicly, not just to me, but also publicly at this event, saying like the Rays are the closer. Like we've never been closer. He said that before, but the Rays are the
Right.
ones who are just going to get us there. And I didn't take it like shade or anything.
Mhm.
But he is right. I mean, that is factual. Everything else is buttoned up. All the Rays need to do is just proceed.
So what
Just
do they need to hear? What do they need? Like
sure.
what is the wordage? What is the email? Because they're they've been trading emails. What does the city, what does the county, what does everybody need to see from the Rays that everybody can go, all right, let's move
Yeah.
forward?
So by March 31st, they have to prove that they've met like certain conditions, that they've like have 50% of the design documents, that they've done a certain amount of work to show that they're really in it. And
And
most
this is
importantly,
real quick, Colleen, this is for not for the new stadium. We're talking about the Trop, right?
oh no, we're talking about the new stadium.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Are we talking
that's
about the
fine.
trial? It's confusing because both things have happened. But
Yes. No, that's fine.
yeah,
I'm
real
glad we're
quick on the
clarifying
trop.
this.
Yeah,
Okay.
real quick on the trop.
Yeah.
From what I've seen in some records I've gotten, it looks like that will come before council March 27th. That could change. It could come even earlier. It seems like the votes are there. That seems like less of the pressing issue. Whether it gets done
Okay.
or not, that remains to be seen. But on the current stadium deal, which by the way, I just want to say the city does think it's going to happen. Like it'll be done by
Which one?
2026.
Both
But
of them?
the trop,
Okay. Okay.
fixing the trop, that the trop would be ready by the 2026 season.
Okay.
They're already like trading proposals about like what else can we fix besides the roof, like what needs to be fixed on the inside, stuff like that.
They wouldn't be that far down that path if they didn't think that that was going to be a possibility, right?
Well, they're required through their agreement to. They
Okay.
legally have to diligently pursue. It's something the word diligently is in there, but basically
Okay.
diligently pursue repair. So like they're kind of doing what they got to do anyway.
Mhm.
But anyway, back to the actual stadium deal, which is what we're kind of on the clock for by March 31st. The Rays have to show that they have like $700 million that they're willing to shell out for this deal. But if that checklist doesn't happen and they don't prove all this stuff by then, they go into default on those agreements, and then all the kind of the ballpark, the new stadium, the gas plant, all this stuff will maybe start to unwind. It's fuzzy, like the city. This has not been discussed, but like, is there some wiggle room? Maybe, probably, but you kind of need to know by March 31st. And the mayor of St. Pete, Mayor Ken Welch, has said his State of the City address is actually this coming Tuesday on the 4th, February 4th. And he's like, the community needs certainty and like needs to
Mhm.
know what's going on. And he's like, and I plan to paint a clear picture of what's going on because it's kind of true. And this is kind of wading less into sports and more into like city politics.
Right.
But like, this is kind of the only thing happening in the city
Mhm.
really right now. Like, so many other projects have been paused, on hold, not advancing. And Ken Welch has kind of put all his eggs in this basket. So it's kind of really important that like certainty needs to come now because already his reelection is in 2026. And this kind of
Right.
also came up a little bit yesterday. So people want to know what's going on. The clock is ticking, agreements are on hold. We got to figure out. And then, yeah, you do have like the trop repairs in the background because, like, are you going to fix this building that you're going to tear down in 3-4 years? Who knows?
Yeah, you're so spot on when it comes to Mayor Ken Welch because he is really taking the bull by the horns with this entire thing.
Yeah,
And all the bonus payments that he gave out and then he retracted them. He says, no, we're not doing that. Like all that stuff and people working overtime. Like he has been one of the big time faces of this entire thing. And
sure,
if it all blows up in his face, like, I mean, it could affect his candidacy, right? Like it could affect
totally.
him being the mayor in a couple of years where if this whole thing just poof blows up, like there's a good chance that he probably isn't going to be the mayor come re-election time. So now just for those that are just kind of getting up to speed of this, the fact that let's say everything goes through Tropicana Field, they get back in there 26, 27. Now we've always had the conversation, all right, new ballpark 2028, but because they're not playing there in 2025, that pushes it back a year, correct? So that new ballpark would be 2029 then for opening day rather than 2028, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of people. That's the hard thing about this, Colleen, and you and I have had this conversation multiple times. There's people that get little bits of information here or there. There's the confusion over the Trop, over the new stadium. And then there's some people that are like, it's almost like the old Green Day song, Wake Me Up When September Ends, Wake Me Up When Shovels Are in the Ground, right? And that's kind of the wild back and forth throughout this entire process is there's still, and for somebody like you that covers it so directly, there's still a lot of questions and not as many answers.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I've had like friends tell me, because I post my stories like on Instagram and on Twitter, and some people are like, it almost reads like it's the same thing all the time. But it's funny because it really isn't. And it kind of feels like when one move is made, it kind of affects another move, and that affects another move. And like the path is just not very clear at this point. But right now, really, it's on the Rays. It's on the Rays right now to just say what they want to do, what's going to happen. But I want to go back to something real quick. You were talking about Mayor Ken Welch's reelection, all that. I quoted him in my story yesterday, and he kind of mentioned it. He just dropped it in there that he's like, this is something that not only I've been dealing with my entire administrations, but also past administrations.
Right.
Right. We know that this whole stadium effort goes back to 2007. So this has been going on. We're in 2025. What's the math on that? 18 years?
18 years. Yeah.
18 years. It's now a legal adult. The stadium search is now a legal adult and can vote and buy cigarettes. And we've had 3 mayors before this one dealing with it. And for example, Mayor Kreisman, who's the mayor before current mayor Ken Welch, has said, like, he said, there's a common denominator here. And it's not Baker and it's not Foster, who's the mayor before Kreisman. Right. It's not me. It's the Rays. Right. And then you also have Tampa mayors, right? You've got Buckhorn and you have Castor, who was at, this event yesterday. So I don't know if that like sets it up to be like, for Ken Welch to be like, hey, I did everything. It's right. On the Rays. That there may be some political posturing next year. Right now, everybody's kind of still playing very nice. Sending letters, but it could get ugly. It got ugly between Kreisman and the Rays. So I don't know if that's in the cards. If this doesn't work out, I think Ken really, 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 really is like manifesting that this will work out and is putting it out there. But I'm just saying that, like, could this become like more ugly? I don't know. I think, Ken mentioning like, it's not just my administration, it's other administrations, like already kind of puts that ripple out there.
Yeah. And I just purely because I've interviewed him a couple times, met him a couple times, just purely for Ken Welch, not even the mayor, the man, like I wanted to work for him because he's really, I mean, you talk about putting forth your best foot and doing everything you can and knowing that you could be fighting somewhat of a losing battle. You know that there's a lot of questions that you have to answer yourself. And, maybe you don't always take the best steps, but Ken Welch is really, man, he's trying to do everything in his power to make this work and to try to bring these sides together. All right. So give us what's kind of the next date? When's kind of the next thing? I know I asked you the last time, and I know March 31st is kind of like the drop dead, but just give us kind of like what we should be keeping an eye on over the next couple of weeks and, kind of what's your inkling on where the Rays head is at right now, if you can.
Yeah. I don't know what else is going on. Ken Welch mentioned yesterday that there's like this specific issue. And I was like, well, what is the specific issue that's in the way of this agreement? And he was like, well, you'll have to ask Stu that. But then he goes and talks about the money, about, this funding gap that we've talked about on the show, right? That the Rays say that they can no longer afford the project now because of the delays and the cost overruns. However, they still have not named that number. I asked Stu that directly, didn't say the number. That number's still not out there. Ken Welch has not seen anything that itemizes how they got to that number or anything like that. So if there's like a secret third thing that needs to be solved, I don't know. So we're on watch for that. We're on watch for right now. There's just like little adjustments into like repairs at Tropicana Field and kind of like buttoning those things up. They're meeting with his name is escaping me right now, but it was in Topkins' column because I gave him the name. One of like Major League Baseball's like guys, like main guys. I think he actually runs like the minor leagues. He's meeting with city officials and with contractors to repair the Trop. Or to kind of like settle on the Major League Baseball standards to kind of like fix the Trop. So we've got Trop repairs, we've got you know, is this deal actually going to happen or not by March 31st? And in the middle of all that, we also have opening day. So, and I think like, you know, I do think that like how this goes in Tampa, like, is this a bellwether for something different? I have no idea. You know, they're jacking up the prices, as we know, for tickets for 2025, you know, for this upcoming season. March is going to be a very interesting month. But as far as like the interim, every day, I I don't know if I'm going to find another letter or something that like, you know, kind of has like one more step in the process. So we're always looking, but I think March is going to be the next big month to look forward to.
Is Stu kind of the fly in the ointment here? Like, is he the guy that, maybe that's too strong of a term, but is Stu the guy that's kind of the ultimate decider on whether this gets
Yeah.
done? He's just, it all comes back to Stu Sternberg, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else for the city and county to do except I guess if they want to throw more money
Right.
at the deal, but I wouldn't rule anything out. But I mean, the mayor has said not one more, like, I think he said not one more dime was his exact phrasing. It was either one more dime or one more cent or something like that. The county doesn't want to do anything, but there's no more approvals or anything for them to do. The only thing that's left is the trop repairs. But that, like I said, that's kind of like a landlord tenant issue. They're kind of required to do it anyway. And the votes are there, I believe. I mean, unless someone like switches or something, but the last time I kind of like surveyed people, that didn't seem to be in any kind of jeopardy. So
all eyes are on Stu Sternberg.
yeah, it's literally up to Stu. I mean, it's their call. It's the Rays' call. Or do they want to put their money? Do they have the money? Do they want to put the money down? Is it a matter of will, or is it a matter of, do you even have the money? Like, it doesn't matter. It's literally just on the Rays to come through with the deal that they also agreed to.
Does that strike you in a weird way of like, you guys agreed to this deal? So it's not like the city and the county are coming out with this different information. Like, oh, we're sliding this in there, we're sliding that in there. It's just like, kind of agreed to this deal. What's with the dragging the feet?
I guess, and that's the thing, that it's just like so hard to put it in. I mean, you know, it is expensive to not play at Tropicana Field. It's pretty disruptive, and you can not to compare these two things, but like, you think of people who lost their homes in the hurricane, and like they're paying their mortgage and they're paying rent somewhere else as they wait for insurance, and like, yeah, that's enough to like bankrupt some people, you know. And like, we're talking, I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar business. But it's pretty disruptive. I mean, you think of all the people who work at Tropicana Field and how like that's going to work at the Yankees, and you got to pay the Yankees, and like it might just be like one too many things, you know. And then like a 2029 delay when you were probably expecting a windfall of cash in 2028 because you think of sponsors and you think of, you know, just all the things that come with debuting a new stadium. That's now just a year later. We don't know how legit that is. I mean, we know that these delays at the county, you know, this consultant who says he's worked on like 20 or 25 deals that was hired by the city and the county, who was, from what I remember, very well liked by the Rays, was saying like there's no way this like 49-day delay or whatever from the county could possibly cause 150 million, 200 million, something in the 9 figures of delays. But it might just be like one too many things, or that they don't, either don't have the money, or B, just decide that it's, maybe they do have the money and then no longer think that it's actually a good deal or a worthy deal. Or so I don't know if it's a matter of will or if it's a matter of the Rays literally just don't have that cash. We don't know. And we'll maybe get some of that clarity, you know, by March 31st.
By March 31st. That is the date on the calendar we will have circled. Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. Colleen _Wright. Check her out, Twitter/X. She's very floral today and always very helpful on the program. And make sure you subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times. We have our guy Eddie Encina joining us on every single Thursday. And again, support local. That is something that I continue to press, and I will always, you know, I'll die on the sword with that one. Support our local media, support the people that are out there putting in the work. Rick Stroud just gave the example a little while ago, drove 4 hours yesterday to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars press conference for Liam Cohen. These are the type of people that we have working in our area. So please, whatever you can do, please support our friends over at the Tampa Bay Times. Colleen, you're the best. you are number one. Have a great rest of your day, and keep an eye out for any new letters.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the shout out.
You got it.